Hello. Hi, everybody. It's Jennifer Hutchins or Jen Hutchins. I forgot to introduce myself yesterday. Welcome to our virtual broadcast of Bridging Program Divides during Event Planning, Temporary Critical Information Requirements, presented by your very own Kip Holdridge. Kip is an emergency management professional from the DOE HQ Consolidated Emergency Operations Center with 15 years of experience in Emergency Operations Center, emergency communications, disaster response, community recovery, and continuity of operations. And yet he still can sleep at night. If you have any questions during the session, use the chat tool on the right, type in your questions, and I will relay these to Kip after our Q&A session after his presentation is done. Please join me in welcoming Kip.
Welcome everyone to today's session entitled Bridging Program Office Divides During Event Planning, Temporary Critical Information Requirements. My name is Kip Holdridge, and I'm a Policy and Procedures Analyst in the DOE and NNSA Headquarters Consolidated Emergency Operations Center. I'll be sharing with you the history, evolution, and best practices from our temporary critical information requirements. This is our agenda for today's session. We will touch on the purpose and origins of the temporary critical information requirements before walking through an example. We will finish up by talking about how the content has evolved, putting the products into practice, lessons learned, and considerations for implementing a similar product at your site. Temporary critical information requirements, or TCIRs, are a special type of critical information requirement that the Headquarters Consolidated Emergency Operations Center issues in response to or in preparation for a specific event or a topic of interest. As the name implies, TCIRs are meant to be temporary, either for a specific period of time or for a hot topic that is not anticipated to become a permanent reporting requirement. The main purpose of the TCIRs is to advise the Watch Office and the Unified Coordination Structure General Staff Monitoring Team of special events and the associated reporting requirements. They're a quick way to get shift workers and rotating duty officers up to speed on an event, how it impacts DOE and NNSA interests, and how to respond if the event does not go as planned. The TCIRs also consolidate what can be a large number of reference documents, both internal and external, into a single document for consumption. The TCIRs provide the salient points up front and allow the operators to reference the more detailed documents only as necessary. We were already contemplating making a long-term transition to critical information requirements-based reporting for the Watch Office when planning for a special event in 2016 presented us with an issue: how to prepare the Watch Office to monitor an event in a foreign country with DOE and NNSA personnel in attendance that may be a target for terrorism. In June of 2016, an inauguration ceremony was held for a massive expansion of the Panama Canal that effectively doubled its capacity. NNSA was sending teams to conduct preventive radiological and nuclear detection, and the U.S. delegation included many dignitaries and was led by President Jimmy Carter. The concern among leadership was how to keep tabs on the event and coordinate a response to ensure the safety of NNSA personnel if something went sideways at the inauguration. The solution was our first ever TCIR document. The remainder of that summer would present several more events with the same basic issue: how to monitor an event with NNSA personnel on scene and ensure their safety if something goes sideways. Being an election year, those events included the Democratic and Republican national conventions and several presidential debates, as well as the Summer Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. Now we will take a quick tour of a real-life TCIR. This example comes from Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta. You may be asking yourself, why is the Headquarters Consolidated Emergency Operations Center concerned with the Super Bowl? Well, the answer is that in addition to being a major event with huge crowds, there are teams from both DOE and NNSA that deploy to the host city to provide support for the event. All of our TCIRs follow the same general format and begin with a document number and title at the top. The document number is the calendar year plus a sequential number for the event. This happened to be the first event for 2019, so the document number is TCIR 2019.1. The gray bar provides a set of effective dates for the TCIR. In this example, there is actually about a week of activity ahead of the game that we're interested in following, in addition to the big game itself. The situation section provides a narrative on the event and what makes it important. The DOE NNSA mission outlines the specific support that DOE and NNSA offices are providing to the event. In this case, we have NA80 providing rad nuke detection support and CR20 providing energy infrastructure monitoring and analysis. These offices are also listed under the Lead Program Office section. Moving down the page, the Essential Elements of Information section provides the Watch Office with key items to monitor during the event. We have developed a library of these that can be recycled for different types of events. As you can see in this example, most of the essential elements of information pertain to rad nuke detection alarms and the safety of DOE and NNSA personnel in the field. The RFI section can vary depending on the event. For an event such as this one, where the activity is 99% in the field, a field-deployed senior response official is usually referenced. For larger events that involve more equities from across the department or are located in the National Capital Region, the Watch Office serves as the hub for all RFIs. The Areas of Interest section outlines the major venues involved in the event and their location and contact information. On this page, we have the major public venues for Super Bowl 53 listed. Moving on to the next page, we continue with the behind-the-scenes venues hosted by interagency partners. The Points of Contact section is not a comprehensive directory of field personnel. Rather, it lists key leadership positions at each venue. Moving down the page, we include a timeline when appropriate for the event. Sometimes this is a detailed move-by-move on the event day, such as for a State of the Union address or presidential inauguration, or in this case, a higher-level timeline that shows the beginning and end of major activities. The watch officers also have access to the Rad Nuke Detection Operations Plan for more detailed information. Since one of the main purposes of the TCIRs is to help prime the pump in case things go sideways, we include the contingency plan for deployed field personnel. This way, we know where people will be headed if they are separated from their group and can provide assistance if an individual in the field contacts the watch office for help. The final page includes various maps and photos of the venues. In this case, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the venue for the Super Bowl experience were in close proximity near downtown Atlanta. However, you'll see in the second map that the Interagency Operations Centers were all located much further away. Although we still use the same basic template 4 years later that we used for that very first teaser, there have been some important evolutions to the content. The first and foremost being an expansion of the offices included in preparing the documents. The first several events that we created teasers for focused on rad nuke detection, but other events also have energy infrastructure, facilities, and continuity of operations equities. We've also incorporated more and better GIS products. This includes different types of maps, as well as pictures of major venues. We have better defined the essential elements of information for each type of event, which essentially tell the watch office what to be on the lookout for. We have essentially built a library of these essential elements of information that we can use depending on the type of event, with some being developed specific to unique events. For those events that include DOE or NNSA personnel being deployed on travel, we started including their lodging locations in the areas of interest section. This serves several purposes. The hotel usually serves as a safe haven for field personnel, which is important to know if something does go sideways. It also provides another method of potentially contacting the personnel in the field if necessary. Also, we want to know if something happens in the vicinity of the hotels that may impact our people. Some events include sending DOE and NNSA personnel to staff an Interagency Operations Center, a multi-agency coordination center, an all-hazard center, or some other type of interagency coordination cell. In addition to cell phone numbers for the personnel at each location, we also try to get the numbers to the DOE desk and the general facility. If a team deploys with the Mobile Emergency Communications Network Kit, we include that contact information as well. Finally, we instituted a special type of teaser for exercises. Following the same basic format and content, the exercise teasers outline the scope of the exercise, provide what would be considered controller instructions to the watch office players, and include the player communications directory. This has been effective in communicating exercise information to shift workers and reduced the number of controllers necessary to conduct an exercise. It also mirrors a real-world process, thereby not introducing additional exercise artificialities in order to communicate the required information. In the early days, teasers were just reference documents. But over time, we've integrated teaser development into the event planning process to great effect. For those events that include equities from across the department, the Consolidated Emergency Operations Center will host a stakeholders meeting in the run-up to the event. The first such meeting was held in preparation for a series of planned power outages in the Forrestal building and has been replicated several times for subsequent continuity events, hurricane season preparedness, and major events impacting the National Capital Region. We will normally bring a draft teaser to the table during the meeting and then use the gathering as an opportunity to flesh out and complete the document. This process has uncovered previously unknown or unconsidered equities from different offices. An example is planning for the last presidential inauguration. Most of the attention was on the rad nuke detection field teams and the relocation of the Consolidated Emergency Operations Center to an alternate facility. Although it was well known that the Forrestal building would be located within the security perimeter, the full slate of facilities and security implications were not fully understood until the stakeholders meeting. For this reason, the meetings use a standard agenda that includes an around the room where each office has an opportunity to share their equities. This helps ensure that nothing gets inadvertently missed. By adopting the stakeholder meeting process, the quality and robustness of the teaser documents has greatly improved. In addition, the overall event planning process was improved and resulted in a more coordinated and unified response to the event. Now for some of the lessons we have learned over the past 4 years of producing teasers, which may be helpful to you in planning a similar product for your site. As the teaser documents became more popular, they also began to account for more and more staff time to develop for the myriad of events that occur on a regular basis. It soon became clear that a threshold was necessary to keep from producing teasers for every possible event. Although not hard and fast, the threshold that we eventually settled on was events designated as a national special security event that included field deployment of a significant number of DOE or NNSA personnel and/or impacted operations on a regional level. With this threshold, we now average about 7 events per year that will require a teaser. As mentioned on the last slide, the more the merrier when it comes to compiling these products. While there is the need to separate the wheat from the chaff, a broader baseline will result in a stronger product. The teasers are summary documents meant for target audiences and not meant to be a comprehensive plan of all aspects of the event. Leave the details to the supporting operations plans and extract just the pertinent information that your audience may need to access quickly if things go sideways. To make the documents more actionable, include trip lines. Basically, if X or Y happen, then do Z. This provides clear guidance for your operators and helps answer the question, why do I need to care about this event? Including quality maps and photos helps make the event real for the reader. In our case, the audience of the teasers staff an emergency operations center and will be nowhere near the real action of the event. Having good maps, and especially pictures of the venues, helps make it real for someone who may be located thousands of miles away from the event. Since our teasers are primarily intended for operators, they include detailed contact information for field teams, venues, and interagency partners. This information is critical in order to coordinate operations. However, as the teasers became more popular, they caught the attention of leadership. For this reason, we started producing a sanitized version of the teasers that omit the contact information and any sensitive information so that the documents can be shared broadly with leadership for their situational awareness. We aim to publish a teaser between 3 and 5 days prior to an event, and that leaves plenty of opportunity for things to change. As updates are published, a version control system becomes paramount to ensuring everyone is on the same and the correct page. We utilize a document numbering system that consists of the calendar year and a sequential number for the event. Since the annual State of the Union address is normally the first event of the year that requires a teaser, it usually becomes number 1. So for example, this year's document was 2020.1. As updates are published, we append a change number to the document number and file name. So the first update becomes 2020.1 change 1, then 2020.1 change 2, and so on. Finally, always publish the teaser as a PDF. This not only usually results in a smaller file size, but makes for easier reading on mobile devices and helps ensure that others do not manipulate your document without your knowledge. If you are interested in starting a similar product for your site, here are some things to consider. First, define your audience. This is extremely important as it will determine many aspects of your product. Most importantly, what information will be included. If the answer is multiple distinct audiences, then consider publishing multiple versions. The easiest approach is to keep the format consistent and just omit certain information from the different versions. A major theme of the past few slides has been involving a broad audience in the development of teasers. I cannot stress enough how much this will improve your overall quality of your product. And finally, make a stakeholders meeting a part of the process. While it may not be necessary for every event, it is an invaluable use of time for the large events, and especially those that involve equities from across the site. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me today to talk about our temporary critical information requirements. I'd love to hear your thoughts and answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thanks for your presentation, Kip. I'll begin our Q&A with this question from the audience that we had. Do your temporary critical information requirements documents get distributed to anyone?
So that depends on the type and the size of the event. For the majority of events, that are on the smaller side, they don't really get distributed much past internal to the operations center. So the watch office, the team that's on standby for the general staff, and then whatever crisis action teams are working the event, whether that's from NA80 in the NIT or from CR20 in their energy response organization. But for the larger events, say a State of the Union address, where we've got a lot of different moving pieces, then they do have a wider distribution and they will end up going out to leadership. But as I mentioned in the presentation, we'll actually do a cut down version. The main difference being just that it lacks that contact information for the field personnel that then goes to the senior leadership so that they can still get the same overall awareness of what's going on, but then they don't have quite all that detail that the watch needs and the operations center needs.
Great, thank you. Another question I have is, would you ever create a temporary critical information requirements document for an event at a DOE or NNSA site?
So we actually have. It was last year for the Storm Area 51 event that impacted the Nevada site. They were taking a lot of preventive actions and beefing up security because they were anticipating a lot of people coming into the area and perhaps trying to challenge the boundary of the site. So we did put together a teaser document for that event, but that's so far the only time we have put one together for an event at a DOE or NNSA site.
Okay, well, thankfully for that. Last question, and we're getting a little short on time. How do you walk the line between providing senior leadership with the information they need to know and enabling them to circumvent the planned response for the event?
So that sounds like a question from someone that perhaps has been burned by that one before. And that is a concern. And so you want to give senior leadership the information that they need to know, and then also gives them the warm fuzzy that you and your team in the operations center have the situation under control, but you also don't want to end up enabling them So that's one of the reasons why we do the cut down version that we give of the TCIRs to the senior leadership. We take out that contact information for the field. So we don't have, for example, say assistant secretary trying to call out to directly to personnel in the field, unless that's their personnel, in which case, that's their prerogative and they can. But we don't want them calling out to other offices in the field. We want to filter all of that through the operations center and the watch office and control the message that way. So that's our main avenue and how we kind of walk that line is we're cognizant of what information we're giving to the senior leadership to try to make sure those sorts of things don't happen.
That's great, Kip. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end our session. If there are questions that you would like to ask Kip that come to you later, please find his contact information in the left-hand side of our Attendify menu under Speakers, and he will contact you after you give him your question. We'd like to thank you for your time, and please complete the survey. If you scroll down on your Attendify page, it will take you to the survey link directly to Kip's presentation, and that will give you credit for attending this session. For those of you participating in our virtual scavenger hunt, now's the time to update your scavenger hunt checklist. We've got a little winner in there. Our next session will be EOC ERO Framework Coordination. Select it from the schedule on the left, or you're always welcome to join another channel to watch an SBX demonstration, attend a workshop, or participate in a user group. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and thank you, Kip. Have a good one.